Hey, welcome back to another episode of Garage to Greatness. I'm your host, Thomas Pena, along with my partner,
Alex Zeeb.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us again. We're glad you're here.
Absolutely. And this week is going to be super exciting because this week is
Story
story
time.
time. And we have tons of great stories to share, from our military experience to crazy sales stories to times in prison, combat tours. I mean, we have just this myriad of stories to share. So I want to go ahead and ask you, Thomas, what's a good story you have that really just changed you, made you who you are today? Anything along those lines? Go ahead and share it with us.
Um, G-rated or R-rated? No, just kidding. We definitely have those. When we were talking about this, I was trying to think, man, what story? And then I thought about what was over just the last recent years, what's something that has really been very profound to me. So I guess it's been probably 5 years ago. Um, a good friend of mine, man, this guy was talking about, man, I got a coach. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. I'm like, bro, man, what, a coach? Man, you don't even play sports, man. Pickleball hadn't even come out yet, and you wouldn't. You still would be the last guy picked on the pickleball team. But I watched him do something, and I watched him really, man, just evolve. And then I watched him do, along with the coaching, he did this 75 hard. And I just watched this guy transform in 90 days. I mean, literally 90 days. I mean, and it really made me think, you know what? Maybe there's something to this coaching. So I reached out to him and I was starting to talk to him, and I was like, man, I don't even know where to find a coach, where to look. I don't even know what I should be looking for. And so he kind of gave me some parameters, and then he set me up with some people. And so I started looking into coaches, and man, good night. There's a bunch of them out there, and man, most of them are super expensive. But the guy that I ended up picking was, man, he had a different kind of mindset, and I'm so glad that I picked him and that he chose me to coach me, because I'll tell you, the first time we sat down, and he was like, "So, tell me about Thomas," and man, it was we tell people who we are, but we really don't tell people who we are. And so this was another big moment that I told this guy who I was. Um, and then he asked me something that was really profound. He said, Thomas, man, that is an incredible story. He said, how is that limiting your life? And I, I had never thought about it. But after talking to him and telling my story, man, there was this huge roadblock that had been blocking me since childhood.
Kind of like having a business therapist, right?
Kind of, sort of, but it brought it to light that I was able to recognize it. And then we set a game plan in on how to get past it, which was really amazing and remarkable. So I would say for me, just over the last few years, finding a coach really helped me, man, just not only in my personal life, but in business life, helped me get past a lot of the roadblocks.
Now, at the beginning of this, you brought up a really good point, right? Is I don't need a coach. That's what you hear a lot of times. Just sports, or, coaches are only for sports. So, how old were you when you got your first business coach?
So I'm 55, 50.
50 years old.
Yeah.
So you're never too old to
No.
learn and develop your brain, right? They always say, oh, your brain, stops learning after 25. But if you decide to make that choice, then your brain can continue being a sponge forever and ever and ever.
Listen, as John Maxwell says, is somebody that I mentor with, man, he says, man, listen, when you stop learning, you stop growing.
Absolutely. That's 110% true, which is why we created this entire platform.
Absolutely.
We don't have 18-year-old kids listening to us. We have a demographic of 25 to 30 and plus, and
but if they did,
it'd still be good for them, but we have people that want to continue to look, grow and be mentored and be coached, and you really have to continue that brain development.
Always.
That's a phenomenal story though, Thomas.
All right. So I told mine.
Yeah. So as I was sitting here thinking about it, right, I kind of was like, man, what story do I pick? How do I don't know what makes sense on this platform, right? And so really I wanted to share a story about how I became, a businessman, a salesman, whatever you want to call me. And it goes back 22 years ago. Okay. 22 years ago, I was 4 years old, right? 4 years old. And my grandpa was a wealthy man, and he had a job for each one of me and my siblings. And I had no job. I was only 4. And he paid each one of my siblings for their service. And so instead of asking Grandpa for money, I asked Grandpa for a job. I said, I want to make money too. How can I make money? Grandpa said, well, I got these big pine cone trees. If you go pick up these pine cones, then I will give you $5 per bag you fill up. And I'm sure Grandpa thought, oh, he's going to fill 1 bag a week, going to distract. He's 4 years old. And I ended up climbing these trees and picking the pine cones off the trees. And I just had bag after bag after bag after bag. And I made more money than all my siblings did at 4 years old, right? And so it doesn't end there though. I was over at a lake house from, an uncle on the other side of the family, and he was talking about how he needed fire starters for his lake house. And I go, man, do I have something for you? Grandpa was throwing the pine cones away. I said, $5 a bag, and I'll sell you these pine cones. So now I just doubled myself on a product that was getting thrown away. And, my mom, she freaked out. She goes, Alex, you can't do that. Those are your grandpa's pine cones. You can't resell them. You have to give him some of the money. And my grandpa said, no, that's an entrepreneur right now. That's a businessman, And so that's where it all started for me. I was 4 years old.
Wow.
And I just right then and there, inadvertently, unconsciously got into the psychology behind business and sales and what it takes to do that. And that's really where my venture started off at,
Kind of reminds me of the old saying, another man's trash
is another man's treasure.
Absolutely.
And in that case, for 4-year-old me, it was.
Absolutely.
That was a huge treasure, So yeah, I think those are some phenomenal things, and we all have to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
Each one of us have a unique start. And that is, that right there, that was my garage. And now I'm continuing on my journey to greatness.
Absolutely.
So I think this has been a wonderful episode. A little bit of story time in there. Next week, we're going to try and bring another guest on. We've got a few people right now in the chute to come on. So we're super excited to bring in more knowledge, more industry experts. They're going to bring more to you guys, our viewers. And we appreciate all of you guys' support. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of
Garage to Greatness.